Deciding between the TFSA and the RRSP can be one of the very first decisions that we have to make when getting our finances together. And for some Canadians, the choice can be pretty clear between the two accounts. But for a lot of us, the decision is actually not so clear.
Right? Yeah.
So today I'm going to help you make that decision in the ultimate showdown.
Our tail of the tape for the main event of the evening. We have a legendary fight on our hands tonight, folks. The old-timer RRSP will be taking on the young upstart, the TFSA. The RRSP started its career way back in 1957, but the TFSA only stepped onto the scene in 2009, which makes the RRSP a whopping 52 years older. They are truly different opponents. The TFSA fights with a very flexible style, but the RRSP has been known to be a more rigid and specialized fighter. Who knows what's going to happen here tonight? I would also like to take this opportunity to remind all viewers to smash the like button in support of the Cash College Fighting Championship. I don't know about you folks, but I think this is set to be a matchup of the ages.
Wait. These two accounts shouldn't actually be fighting. If you watch my video on the Beginner's Guide to Investing in Canada, then you know that these two accounts should actually be working in harmony with one another. Okay. That is not a road I want to go down, so let's just get into the video. The very first thing that I want to say is that I have made videos on the TFSA and the RRSP individually that go into more specific detail about each two accounts, and you may want to check those out if you have not already. And with that out of the way, let's look at the mechanics behind each account to see how they both work under the same situation. Okay, so let's say that we wanted to invest $1,000 and we were choosing between the two accounts. Now let's say that this $1,000 was from our gross income. So we're going to say in this particular situation that our income tax rate right now is 30%, which means if we choose the TFSA, that means that we're only going to be able to contribute $700 because we're going to assume that that $1,000 is coming out of our gross income and we have to pay taxes on that money. But if we choose the RRSP, we're going to get to contribute the entire $1,000 because with the RRSP, we get to defer that tax until later. So let's also say that we're investing this money for 30 years and we're going to be earning a rate of return of 6% on average. So after this period, the money in our tax-free savings account has grown to $4,020, but the money in our RRSP has actually grown to $5,743. And this is because we contributed that initial $1,000 to our RRSP at the beginning. But now in the next step, we have to reintroduce those taxes. So in the tax-free savings account, we get to pull out that entire $4,020 because we don't have to pay income tax on the withdrawal. So that's the amount that we'll end up with if we chose the tax-free savings account. But if we chose the RRSP in this particular situation, we'll have to pay taxes when we withdraw the money out of the account, which then brings the total money that we're pulling out of this account to $4,020.
For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
Which is the exact same as the tax-free savings account. And the reason that they're the exact same in this particular situation is because the tax rate at withdrawal is the exact same as the tax rate at contribution. They're both 30% in this case. So what we can learn from this is that when the tax rate that you contribute to your RRSP is the exact same as the tax rate as when you'd be pulling money out of your RRSP, the difference between the two accounts is going to be zero in terms of the tax benefits that they offer you. They're going to be the exact same. Let's change up our tax brackets a little bit to see if this impacts the two accounts at all. So now let's say that we're still going to be looking to invest $1,000, but this time our income tax at the initial point is going to be 40%. So this means that we're only going to be putting $600 into our tax-free savings account because of that income tax, and we're still going to be putting the full $1,000 into the RRSP. RRSP. So after the same 30-year period, we can see that there's a pretty big difference between the two accounts. But now let's see if the tax that we have to pay on withdrawing money from the RRSP brings this down enough to be at the same level as the TFSA. So let's say in this particular situation, now our tax rate at withdrawal is going to be 25%. So again, we get to take all the money out of the tax-free savings account. We get that entire total. But when we take the money out of the RRSP, again, we have to pay some taxes. But look at the amount that we now have after paying taxes and pulling the money out of the RRSP. It's now almost $1,000 more than what we pulled out of the tax-free savings account. And here's where you can actually see how the RRSP can have a greater tax benefit than the TFSA. And that's in a situation where you're contributing money to your registered retirement savings plan in a higher tax bracket than you would be when you're withdrawing the money from the same account. And of course, if these tax brackets were flipped, if you were contributing to your RRSP in a lower tax bracket than what you'd be in retirement, then these results would be flipped. The tax-free savings account would provide a greater tax benefit because you'd be losing money on taxes in your RRSP, and you definitely do not want to do that. But that's also not the full story. There are other factors that can influence the decision between the TFSA and the RRSP. For example, the TFSA is a much more flexible account than the RRSP. So how can we take into account all of these different factors to arrive at the right decision for us? Well, I've created this kind of like question map that I'd like to walk you through so you can arrive at that decision for yourself. All right, here we go. Let's walk through this together. So basically, the way this is going to work is for each question, you're either going to answer yes or you're going to answer no. And usually when you answer no, that means that you're going to be moving along to the next step on the map. So question number 1 is your employer offering you an RRSP matching contribution? If you answer yes to this question, then that means that you're probably going to want to prioritize your RRSP because this means that your employer is essentially offering you free money. So if you're watching or listening to this and your employer offers you this and you're not enrolled in it, please, 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 I am begging you, enroll yourself in these matching RRSP contributions because you're leaving free money on the table if you don't do this. So yeah, in this situation, probably choose the RRSP. If you answered no, then let's move along to the next question, which is, does your employer offer you a pension? If so, in this case, then you're probably going to want to use the tax-free savings account. And that's because a pension basically acts the same way as the RRSP, and it can actually decrease the amount of contribution room that you have for your RRSP. So it makes sense to prioritize your tax-free savings account in this case and allow your pension to do its thing. If you answered no again, then let's keep on rolling to the third question, which is, are you saving for a goal that is sooner than your retirement? If you answered yes to this question, then you're probably going to want to prioritize the tax-free savings account. And that's because the account is much more flexible. You're going to be able to pull money out of it much easier. And really the RRSP is specifically geared towards retirement savings. Now there are 2 specific scenarios where you can take money out of the RRSP before retirement, and that's the home buyers plan and the lifelong learning plan. But sometimes it still makes sense to use the tax-free savings account for these purposes. It really comes down to your own specific situation. So I would recommend Googling those, learning more about them, and seeing which is a better fit for you in that specific situation. But in general, the tax-free savings account is going to be your friend for goals that are shorter than retirement. If you answered no, then that means that you are saving for retirement. And so we're going to progress to a question where it gets a little bit more nuanced. And that question is your income above, below, or about $50,000? So let's start with those of you who said your income is below $50,000. If your income is below $50,000, then that probably means that you're going to want to prioritize the tax-free savings account. And this is because you're more likely to be in a lower tax bracket now than what you'll be in retirement. So you don't want to contribute to your RRSP quite yet, especially if you think that there is room for your income to still grow, because you want to contribute to your RRSP when you're in your highest income earning years. So if you're earning less than $50,000, you might want to hold off on the RRSP for now and instead contribute to your tax-free savings account. For those of you who said your income is above $50,000, the next question I have for you is your income above $90,000. If you answered yes, then this probably means you're going to want to prioritize the RRSP first. And that's because you're more likely to be in a higher tax bracket now than what you'll be in when you retire, because you're probably in your higher income earning years right now. And so you'll get the greatest benefit by maximizing your RRSP right now and then moving any additional contributions to your tax-free savings account after you've maxed out your RRSP. Now, for those of you who said that your income is above $50,000, but it is less than $90,000, then we're going to group up with the same group who said their income is about $50,000. So those of you, that means that your income is somewhere in between $50,000 to $90,000. And this is where the discussion gets a little bit more like a coin toss, really. And that's because there's not going to be a drastic benefit over using one account over the other. And that's because your income tax bracket right now is probably going to be about the same as it will be in retirement. It's not going to be drastically different, which means that either account is not going to provide a way bigger benefit than the other one right now. Now you might be wondering, but wait, there has to be some kind of factors that can possibly influence my decision at this point. And yeah, there definitely is. And the biggest one is whether or not you think that your income has the ability to increase substantially. If you think it does, then this probably means that you're going to want to use the tax-free savings account right now and wait until your income has that increase so that then you can use the RRSP in the higher tax bracket. If you're not sure about your income increasing or you don't think it will, then really either account is available for you. You can't really go wrong with either one. So what I would recommend for you is to make sure to watch my video on the tax-free savings account and the RRSP individually, and in addition to that, do as much reading as you possibly can on the two accounts and situations similar to yours so you can see what's going to be the best fit for you right now. But again, neither account is probably going to provide a drastic benefit over the other one. Boom. There you have it. I'd like to end this video with a message from the Canadian Investment Fighting Championship.
Up train by day,
Cash College.
podcast by night, all day.